Hello friends, welcome back. In today's video, we are going to talk about autoscaling in AWS. Autoscaling is one of the key features in Amazon Web Services. So let us see what it is. First of all, why do we need autoscaling? Autoscaling is needed when you have to dynamically increase the compute capacity of your cluster. Let's say, for example, you have an e-commerce website where you can manage the customer traffic with just one instance, but during some festival season or during a big billion sale, the customer traffic increases and you need a couple of more instances added to your cluster to handle the customer traffic. So instead of doing this manually, you have to do it dynamically. So that's where autoscaling comes into picture. So let us see this diagram. So in this diagram, we are trying to add certain conditions where if the CPU utilization is below 50%, I am fine with just one instance in my cluster. But if the same utilization increases beyond 50%, then for me one instance is not enough, so I will add two more instances into my cluster to increase the compute power. Similarly, if the average CPU utilization of all these three instances goes beyond 70%, then I need to add two more instances to run my show. So adding or decreasing the machines in your cluster is called autoscaling. Now there are four ways of autoscaling your application. One is fixed scaling, target scaling, simple and step scaling. In this demo we'll be looking into simple scaling and step scaling, but we will also see what these four scalings talk about. So let us start with fixed scaling. In fixed scaling, it says that at any point of time it will maintain a certain number of EC2 instances in your cluster to handle the customer request. So if I say that for my cluster I need to have 5 instances available all the time, so the autoscaling group will take care of all the requirements so that at any given point of time, even if the load increases and if one of the instances shut down, it will immediately spin up one more instance for you and it will maintain the count. Target scaling is similar to fixed, but here we have to set a target. So when I say set a target, I'll be saying that my target is the average CPU utilization in my cluster should always be less than 80%. So whenever the average CPU utilization in your cluster goes beyond 80%, autoscaling group will immediately spin up one more instance to match this target. Even after adding a couple of instances, if the average CPU utilization goes beyond 80, it will keep on adding instances to match this target. So that is target scaling for you. The next scaling is simple scaling. This is one of the widely used one. In simple scaling, we will be having a condition for both scaling up and scaling down your cluster. So I'll say something like if the average CPU utilization is beyond 80%, then add 4 instances for me. Or if the average CPU utilization goes below 50%, then just keep one instance. So this is simple scaling where you can add conditions. The last variety is the step scaling. In step scaling, it is very much similar to simple scaling, but the only difference here is in step scaling you can have more than one conditions. So here, as you can see, I can have 3 conditions where I can say if the CPU utilization is in between 30 to 40, add 2 instances. If it is between 40 to 60, make it 4. And if the utilization goes between 60 to 80, make it 5 instances. So these are all the 4 different types of scaling which we can do in autoscaling group. Now let us go to our AWS console and see a demo on the same. So this is my launch template screen. So let me create a template quickly. Let me click create launch template and give a name here. So I will give something called Ubuntu detail monitoring. So let us talk about what is detail monitoring before we go any further. So in AWS we have a service called CloudWatch. So CloudWatch is a metrics monitoring service which will collect the metrics from different services like EC2, S3, load balancer and stuff. So by default this will collect metrics every 5 minutes. But in our autoscaling scenario, we can't wait for 5 minutes to take a call. We need to take a call immediately, right? So in that case, we will enable detailed monitoring. In this case, it will send the metrics information to CloudWatch every minute. So suppose the EC2 instance is sending the metrics to CloudWatch every minute. The autoscaling group will read the metrics from the CloudWatch and it will do an action or take an action accordingly. So we need to enable detailed monitoring to work on real-time metrics information. So after giving a name, let's scroll down. Let me select an AMI image. I'm going to work on Ubuntu. So let me select Ubuntu here. Let me select an instance type. I'll select T2 micro. Let me give a keypad name to login. I'll select C2 underscore auth. I have already created this, and I will enable my security group to allow SSH port to be open so that I'll be able to log in. Let's come down and click on advanced details and search where we have detailed monitoring. Yes, so let me enable this and then we are good to go. Let's scroll down and create launch template. So now that we have created a template, let's create an autoscaling group. Let's go back, click on autoscaling groups. Let us click on create autoscaling group, select the new launch template and click on Ubuntu detailed monitoring and next. Here we'll give a name. Let me give my scaling group and group size will be 1. This is the initial desired limit. This is the default VPC, and within the VPC let me select all the subnet groups. Now we will see what is subnet and what is VPC in a separate video, but for now you can just think like subnet is a mini network within a network. And let me go to next. So in the 4 types of scaling, the first scaling option we saw was fixed scaling group. So if you want to use the first scaling option, you can choose this radio button, but we are going to look at demo into simple scaling. So let me click on second radio button and here it says scale between 1 to 10. So the minimum number of instances is 1 and the maximum instance is 10. And then scale group size. Here the metric type is average CPU utilization and the target value is, so target value is basically used for the second model of autoscaling where we just discussed about the target scaling option, where we give a target value here and your autoscaling group will scale up your cluster to satisfy the target condition which you have just given. Since we're going to see a demo on simple and step scaling, so let me click this link and scroll down, click on create simple scale policy. We won't be using decrease group size in our demo, so let's delete this. And then let us create an alarm. So alarm is basically a when condition. So if you have to scale up or scale down your cluster, you need to tell the autoscaling group when to do that. So let us disable this and say whenever the CPU utilization, the average CPU utilization goes beyond 80%, and if it remains this way for continuous period of 5 minutes, then do something. But for our demo, we won't be waiting for 5 minutes. So let me just give 1 minute here and create alarm. Once the when condition is given, so what action has to be taken when this condition is met? So I will say add 5 instance. So this is the absolute value. I can also give in terms of percentage, where I can say add 10% increase in my compute power. But for demo, let me just give in terms of capacity units. So I will say 5 capacity units to be added when this condition is met. Now let me click on next. We won't be adding any notification here, so we'll ignore. There is no tag, so we will ignore review. So we are fine with everything. So create autoscaling group. Once the autoscaling group is created, let's view that. So this is the dashboard of our autoscaling group. Here you can see the desired value is 1, the minimum value is 1, and the maximum value could go up to 10. The number of instances is 0 because it is still trying to provision the first instance. Let's go by this tab. This is the activity history tab. This is like the logs. So any action which takes place, whether it is trying to create a new instance or deactivate any instance all these actions will be logged here. If I go to scaling policies, so here we can add a new policy, or I can edit the existing policy, or I delete the existing policy which we just gave. So here you can see when the CPU utilization is beyond 80, and if it remains like that for 1 minute, then add 5 EC2 instance. Now let us go to instances, and we can see the first EC2 instance has been provisioned and it is in healthy state, and even here the number has been changed to 1. Now let me log in into this EC2 instance. So let me click this and copy the IP address and try to log in via PuTTY. So let me open PuTTY and try to log in. So Ubuntu is the default username, @IP value, go to SSH, go to auth, go to browse, copy the PPK and open. Click yes. So we're able to successfully log in. Let me open a duplicate session here. So clear, and let me execute the command. So as you can see, this shows the CPU utilization. It is 26% now, and now it is 0%. So let us try to do a small hack. Let me execute the dt command, which will increase the CPU percentage by 90%. So let me copy the command. So let me copy this command in the different session and hit enter. Let's keep a look into the CPU utilization. As soon as I hit enter, the utilization will shoot up to 90%. As you can see, now it's 94 and now it's 96. So let us go back to our AWS console and see whether the AutoScaling group has added 5 new instances for us. Let me click on instances. So this will take some time. So let me pause this video. This will take at least 1 minute for AutoScaling group to spin up 5 instances for you. So after 1 minute, as you can see, the AutoScaling group has started adding 5 new EC2 instance into this AutoScaling group. So this is the old one, and the 5 new instances are being provisioned. It is still in pending state. So guys, this is how the AutoScaling group works. Now let us go back and see if we can look at a demo on step scaling. So let me add a new policy here and click on create a scaling policy with steps and create an alarm, and this time I will say if it is greater than 50%, or I'll say 60, and create an alarm. And next we'll keep adding steps. So add step, here I'll say 60 to 70, and add one more instance, add one here, add a new step when it is 70 to 80, and add one more instance when it's between 80 to 90, and so on. You can keep adding any number of steps here. There is no limitation. So I need to create some name here. So my step policy, and click on create. So guys, this is how you create a step policy, and below we created a simple policy. So I hope you like this video. If you like this video, please like, share and comment, and thank you so much for watching this video.